Most of us know that Africa isn't in a very good spot right now. Most of the top underdeveloped countries come from Africa, not the best place to live in. Even though it has such a vast amount of resources, it just so happens to be one of the least developed places in the world. Because of this, more developed countries in the world have taken advantage of this vast resource and let Africa to rot in the dust while countries around the world flourished. Now, an interesting question to ask is, what if this imperialism never happened? Would Africa continue to grow, or would it not affect the quality of the country? Africa as a whole has suffered poverty and corruption within its government. Its economy and government has such a low standing power over its people, which resulted in being highly susceptible to imperialism. Africa was forced to switch production to exportable crops, which messed up self-sufficiency. Poor areas were taken over and were replaced with plantations, and local handicrafts were eliminated, which left a lot of poor laborers. They pretty much destroyed the whole African culture and economy. What once was a place that lived in decent conditions turned into a land filled with landlords, businessmen, and starving, diseased millions. For example, one of the major reasons Africa had its economy crushed was the Berlin Conference of 1884. This conference marked the climax of the European competition for territory in Africa. This event later became known as the Scramble for Africa. Europeans ran the economy in ways that would help them but didn't think of how it would affect Africa. The government did not allow Africans to participate. The splitting of countries ended up dividing one race into many different countries and races who didn't get along with one another. Now, it's no coincidence that most countries affected by imperialism are non-white countries. Racism and imperialism do complement each other quite well, and because of that, Western European countries took advantage of the underdeveloped countries early on. Racism in the West was mainly whites to blacks, further resulting in imperialism within Africa. The corruption that followed the initial imperialistic act ended up breaking down its government. Africa was used as a profitable land for the UK, but soon after attempting to take over Africa, the UK failed horribly. Soon after they arrived in Africa, they realized that there were tribes and even diseases that would kill them. They also found that the mosquitoes were carrying many diseases that were fatal without proper medical treatment. Now, if imperialism never existed, I think that places like Africa would thrive and countries like the US would be more reliant on Africa. Since Africa was a self-sustained country before imperialism, it's not that big of a stretch to say that Africa would be a stronger country. Even now, Africa still suffers from some sort of imperialism, although the government is slowly improving, but Western countries still control some power over part of Africa. Hopefully in the near future, imperialism will be completely wiped out and Africa will be able to get help to become a sustainable place.